We usually treat event planning as, well, purely administrative, right? Booking a room, setting a time, sending out some calendar invites. But what if I told you those seemingly simple logistical choices are actually powerful tools for systemic safety? Today, in this explainer, we're unparking Module 6 of the GBA Plus Community Training course. We're going to look at how we can completely transition event planning from just basic logistics to, honestly, profound inclusivity. So it all really starts with one foundational question, a heuristic from the Simcoe County Local Immigration Partnership, and it's this. Who is not included in the work you do? We have to be asking ourselves this constantly, like what could possibly contribute to this exclusion? And crucially, what can you do differently to make sure inclusion actually happens? It kind of forces us into this continuous real-time equity assessment, rather than just falling back on a retroactive diversity audit when the whole event is already said and done. Now, to really answer that, we've got to clear a critical conceptual hurdle first, and that is the difference between formal equality and substantive equity. So formal equality, that's the old one-size-fits-all approach, treating absolutely everyone the exact same way. But substantive equity, which is really the ultimate goal of GBA+, that means treating people differentially to actually address their specific structural barriers. It requires us to recognize that newcomers arrive at the doors of our events from vastly different starting points. They're carrying different resources, different traumas, and different systemic disadvantages. We aren't just leveling the playing field here, we are completely redesigning the whole thing so that a person's social location no longer dictates their likelihood of participating. Here is our roadmap for today. 1. Beyond formal equality. 2. Timing and venue accessibility. 3. Language and cultural safety. 4. Compensating lived experience. And 5. Access without fear policies. All right, Section 1. Beyond formal equality. Let's see GBA Plus in practice. This brings us to a really amazing corrective framework, the IDEA checklist. That stands for Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Accessibility, and it was developed by the Hamilton Immigration Partnership Council. Essentially, every single logistical decision needs an intersectional equity lens applied across 4 distinct categories. We're talking timing and scheduling, venue accessibility, compensation of lived experience, and language and cultural safety. Let's break these down one by one, shall we, and see how they actually play out in the real world. Moving into Section 2, timing and venue accessibility, getting down to the physical logistics. So the clock itself can literally be a massive barrier. Think about your default midday meeting. Who are we inadvertently locking out when we do that? A single mother trying to manage childcare, or maybe someone working multiple precarious shift jobs. They simply cannot make a 2 p.m. meeting. To achieve true substantive equity, you absolutely must acknowledge the diverse real-world responsibilities of your target audience. That means offering multiple meeting times, providing robust virtual options, and being deeply mindful of things like religious obligations or even just different time zones. Okay, so once the timing works, you need the right space. And listen, that goes way, way beyond just checking the box for a wheelchair ramp. Are you accommodating invisible disabilities with things like hearing loops? Are there gender-inclusive washrooms to ensure the genuine safety of gender-diverse individuals? And maybe most importantly, think about the actual journey to get there. We really have to recognize the severe socioeconomic barriers to vehicle ownership, especially among recent newcomers. I mean, if your venue can only be reached by a personal car, well, you've already locked out some of the most marginalized voices in your entire community. Which leads us to Section 3, language and cultural safety. Ensuring the environment is actually welcoming. Safety has got to be universally designed and baked right into the logistics from day one. This means using plain text translations for all of your promotional materials. It means treating dietary restrictions like halal or kosher not as, just nice to have preferences, but as fundamental safety needs. We've also got to draw heavily on trauma and violence-informed approaches, or TBIA. This looks like creating comfortable, truly private physical spaces and providing incredibly transparent explanations of your service routines. Basically, explain the why, the what, and the how of the event upfront so there are absolutely no surprises that could trigger anxiety or re-traumatization. Now for Section 4, compensating lived experience. Let's elevate the stakes here. Here is a really crucial point. When we ask individuals from equity-deserving groups to share their lived experiences, their insights, and honestly, quite often their pain, we're asking for highly valuable labor. The curriculum heavily stresses the absolute necessity of providing honorariums here. And look, this isn't just about being polite. It is about preventing the extraction of trauma and knowledge from marginalized folks without providing fair, tangible remuneration. Put simply, if you are leveraging their stories to build your programs or to educate your stakeholders, they must be equitably compensated for their time and their emotional energy. Absolutely crucial. All right, Section 5, Access Without Fear Policies. Let's talk about high-stakes human rights protections. For community partners, a really critical vulnerability lies with undocumented residents, refugee claimants, and people with precarious status. Access Without Fear policies, which are often known in places like Toronto as Access TO, these ensure that undocumented residents can access essential municipal and community services without any fear whatsoever of deportation risks. In this context, an event planner or a frontline worker is no longer just doing administrative work, they are literally acting as a community protector. So, how do we actually enforce this at the door? Well, by implementing universal trauma precautions. This means operating under the safe assumption that anyone walking in may have potentially experienced trauma. For your event intake, you must utilize safe forms. Never ever demand unnecessary proof of status. Access to services must never be contingent on proving who you are to the federal government. Furthermore, you've got to actively minimize individual triggers. Design your registrations so that people can easily opt out of triggering demographic questions without facing any discrimination or risking their access to the event. Drawing directly from those TVIA principles, the ethos here is crystal clear. Safety must be paramount, maintaining rigorous, uncompromising confidentiality protocols. Creating safe spaces sometimes means actively uncoupling community services from federal immigration enforcement. It means establishing secure referral pathways that protect individuals and ensure their fundamental human right to access services. We really have to shift our focus here, away from protecting the institution's sense of safety and towards fiercely protecting the human safety of the newcomers walking through our doors. Well, we have covered some incredible ground today, from meeting times all the way up to high-stakes human rights protections. So I want to leave you with this final provocative question. Will your next event be a structural barrier, or will it be a bridge to systemic safety? The choice lies entirely in the logistics that you build. I challenge you to audit your very next event using the IDEA checklist and these Access Without Fear principles and completely transform your community.